predictive programming not so long ago, most people didn't even know such terms. Today, more and more are aware of conspiracy-related terminology, but are not exactly informed about the concepts described by these terms, when these terms apply and when they do not, and when they do, then why. There is a misconception that the reason for predictive programming is to make people believe an event is real, which is ultimately staged. However, the idea that predictive programming is used to prepare the public for staged events contradicts the logic behind the concept. Predictive programming is about psychological desensitization and emotional acceptance of an event, whereas hoaxes are about maximum psychological shock and emotional traumatization, known in military parlance as shock and awe. Hoaxes are about causing chaos out of which a new order can be created. Ordo ab chaos, order out of chaos, as the Masonic guiding principle goes. Associating hoaxes with predictive programming is therefore a complete contradiction. People confuse two different concepts, predictive programming and metaphysical forewarning. Any form of psychological programming is dependent on constant repetition, a fundamental concept in mass psychology. Predictive programming presents events over and over again so that they become ingrained in people's subconscious, while forewarning only happens once or a few times. This is a metaphysical rule according to which the devil must warn his victims before he becomes active. These warnings are rare and subtle. For example, in the form of ironic hints hidden in names. Predictive programming for staged events would not make sense. Revealing a planned staged event, the portrayal of a certain event or scenario informs people. The more an event is implied in the media, the more likely it is that people will perceive it as suspicious or fake when it actually occurs. This could raise unintended questions and skepticism. That is the opposite of what the originators of hoaxes intend. Failure to achieve the intended emotional effect. Predictive programming aims to neutralize the psychological and emotional response to real events. If people believe that the event is staged, the purpose of predictive programming to create compliance and manage public reaction would fail. Public outrage or disbelief could result, undermining the very purpose of the media to get people to accept an event. Credibility of the narrative planned staged events are not repeatedly announced in the media because people then question the authenticity of the event. Predictive programming intends for the future event to be perceived as natural or inevitable, not staged or false. Summary. The basic idea of predictive programming is to subtly prepare people for real events that might otherwise be shocking or difficult to accept. If the intention is to stage an event, predictive programming is not used as it undermines the objective because exposure could lead people to question the authenticity of the event. So if Trump were a bad player, or rather part of a negative group conspiring to stage an assassination attempt on him at some point, they would not use predictive programming in advance to desensitize the public, because then the shock would be far less when it happened, which would not lead to the benefits that hoaxes are actually staged for. It wouldn't allow him to portray himself as a victim or authentic. He wouldn't be able to get as much out of it, as the predictively programmed would perceive the event as normal, uneventful, and ordinary. No hero can be born out of a dramatic tragedy if the predictive programming portrays the event as an everyday occurrence. The psychological definition of predictive programming is the softening of the public's acceptance of events. The core idea behind predictive programming is that media content leads people to accept the possibility or normalize the reality of certain events, such as disasters, societal changes, or technology, so that they seem less surprising or even inevitable when they occur. Public perception is shaped to reduce shock or resistance when such events occur. People are prepared for the actual occurrence of an event by the repeated fictional representation of it, so that the reaction to it is milder and easier to cope with. This describes at least one level of the phenomenon. But there is a deeper truth beyond that. It is done because those in power have no choice but to do it. There is a saying that the devil is never a maker. Evil does not create anything, it only twists what already exists. This is because it cannot create, as evil has no connection to the divine. The dark entities that execute predictive programming do so because they cannot manifest reality themselves. They lack the connection to divinity, creativity, and originality. They need to manipulate creator beings, such as humans, in order to manifest reality for them. Therefore, they use the media they control to portray events they are trying to manifest in order to program the human mind to manifest them. This is reality creation by proxy. They manipulate others to do what they cannot do themselves.